to More Living with Jim Brogan, your source of information for living the best years of your life your way. For more than a decade, host Jim Brogan and his expert guests have come together each week to share important news and advice that can impact the lives and well-being of those who are retired and those nearing retirement. Learn about issues like health and fitness, financial planning, Social Security benefits, investment advice, and more. And now, here's the host of More Living, Jim Brogan.
Good morning, East Tennessee, and welcome to More Living with Jim Brogan, where it's all about living the best years of your life your way. This is News Talk 98.7 WOKI, and you know, Knoxville is such a great place to live. And the economy here has always been relatively steady, and companies are drawn to our area because East Tennessee offers such an appealing location for companies to headquarter and do business. We've also been named one of the top recession-proof cities in the United States. Now, we've got several large businesses that call Knoxville home. We've got companies like, of course, Pilot Flying J. We've got Discovery Network, TVA, Regal Cinemas, and, of course, we've got the University of Tennessee and then the Oak Ridge Corridor. So our relatively low cost of living and incentives are enticing, especially for a city that is really getting near, if you look at the metropolitan area, we're getting near 1 million people. So this morning we have on Doug Lawyer. He's the Vice President of Economic Development for the Knoxville Chamber of Commerce. He's been with the Chamber for almost 20 years, and he's also served on a variety of boards in our region. We're also going to get into, you know, what's the status of what he's seeing with economic growth with what's gone on with coronavirus. So good morning, Doug. Welcome to More Living. It's great to have you with us.
Good morning. It's great to be here. I appreciate the opportunity, as always.
Yes, thank you for taking time out of your schedule. Doug, you've worked for the Chamber of Commerce for almost 20 years. So, big picture, how has the growth in Knoxville and the region changed during your time here?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I think what I've seen during my career is probably a more intense focus on attracting specific types of businesses, really trying to play off the assets that we have here throughout the entire region. You know, and those things are. You mentioned the University of Tennessee and the Oak Ridge National Laboratory, and the technologies coming out of those entities is a huge driver for us. So I think we're getting better at doing that. Still have a lot of work to do in those areas, but that's probably been the biggest change, as opposed to, you know, just responding to every single request that we may get for a particular type of business that's looking to locate. We're in a position where we can be a little bit more selective now, I believe.
So what types of industries are you looking to bring to Knoxville?
Yeah, so we have 5 different what we call strategic platforms of types of companies, and it's not just from the business attraction, but also working really closely with our existing industry base, so from a business retention and expansion standpoint. But those 5 platforms, they're really broad by definition, but, you know, we call those communication-type companies, health companies, companies that are involved in the movement, you know, logistics services type of companies. Anything involved in the power sector as well as the security sector, you know. So those 5 platforms, again, very broad by nature, but I think you can start to peel away the onion skin a little bit on all of those and see that there's a lot of synergies with what we have going on with our research assets as well as our existing industry bases here in the Knoxville region to help grow those platforms.
You know, you mentioned the University of Tennessee and Oak Ridge National Lab. You know, I guess that gives us a unique opportunity that Knoxville's capitalized on, and it sounds like you're continuing to work on capitalizing on in that. You know, I think with those, you know, with it being the University of Tennessee and Oak Ridge National Lab and Oak Ridge Contractors, it gives us a lot of stability in our employment. I think that probably, I haven't studied the data, but I would think that leads a lot to the fact we are very recession-proof as opposed to most cities in the country. But then that does give us tremendous opportunities to attract business. I mean, you mentioned logistics. The logistics program at University of Tennessee is one of the top 2 or 3 in the country.
Yeah.
And then you've got all the technology that's developed around Oak Ridge. So can you just expand a little bit on how Knoxville has been able to capitalize on those relationships?
Yeah. So a great example, from the logistics school that you mentioned. We've had companies recently like Axle Logistics, a company here in Knoxville that recently added another 250 jobs to their operation, and they're taking an older facility up North Central, up in Happy Holler, and redeveloping that property into a really cool looking office facility, and again adding 250 jobs. There's on the movement sector, in partnership with the University of Tennessee and Oak Ridge National Lab. Hopefully folks have heard, but Volkswagen, which everyone thinks about Volkswagen as having an assembly plant in Chattanooga, and there's a distribution center out in Roane County. But Volkswagen, not too long ago, announced that they're locating an innovation hub on UT's research park at Cherokee Farm. And that's a huge, huge win for our community. It's going to start small, a handful of jobs, but they've got an office set up there now, and we hope to see that grow. And, 10 years from now, I hope we're talking about 200 Volkswagen researchers in Knoxville. Wow. Doing collaborative research with the university as well as the national lab.
Yeah, so it's not just U.S. businesses. You really attract international business. What types of incentives does Knoxville provide businesses to relocate headquarters in Knoxville?
Yeah, well, our greatest incentive, period, end of statement, is our location. We are just blessed geographically with where we sit in the kind of the center of the eastern United States, and easy access in and out of here. Good road networks, a great airport, a lot of direct flights. We have barge terminals here. We have rails crossing. But in terms of, the dollars and cents types of incentives, the way we look at that is we review every project on a case-by-case basis. And there's kind of 3 things we're always going to ask those companies that are looking here. How many net new jobs are you going to bring to the table? What are you going to pay your employees? And then what's your capital investment look like? And so based upon those kind of 3 big questions, we can bring together programs from the state of Tennessee via tax credits and grant funds. TVA has got programs to help offset the cost of their power bills. And then locally, we have the ability to freeze property taxes for large projects, and as an incentive to get those companies to make those decisions to locate here.
Well, and I know you work cooperatively with the Knox County and Knoxville Mayor's office. So just talk about the importance of that cooperative relationship. Yeah.
So the city of Knoxville, Knox County are 2 of the largest investors in our economic development efforts at the Knoxville Chamber, and that's a partnership that we value. We meet with the mayors and brief them on economic development projects, and city council and county commission as well. And it's important for the mayors to understand how everything that a city or county government, what those functions are, how that can help drive economic development. So, things as important as, building new parks and greenways, that adds to the quality of place. Making sure the roads are paved and the potholes on our city streets are being filled in a timely fashion. All of that matters. And then, just having an overall quality of place, what's going on in downtown Knoxville, and the investment that the city has put into kind of revitalizing downtown. 20 years ago, as you know, downtown did not look like it does today. So that's been a huge impact on business attraction as well as expansion projects.
We're visiting with Doug Lawyer. He is with the Knoxville Chamber of Commerce with Economic Development. And when we come back, I want to ask Doug, is there a concern that we're growing too much What does the future look like? How are we being affected by COVID-19? So stay tuned. We've got a lot to talk about as you listen to More Living with Jim Brogan here on News Talk 98.7 WOKI.
You are listening to More Living with Jim Brogan. During the week, Jim is a financial advisor, an author, and speaker with an MBA from the University of Tennessee, who specializes in helping people in or near retirement plan for the next phase of their lives. You can reach Brogan Financial during the week at 865-862-6800 or on the web at broganfinancial.com. And now, here's Senior Market Advisor Magazine's 2011 National Advisor of the Year and host of More Living, Jim Brogan.
Thanks for tuning in to More Living today, right here on News Talk 98.7 WOKI. I'm your host, Jim Brogan, and we're visiting with Doug Lawyer with the Knoxville Chamber of Commerce. We're talking about economic development and where are we here in Knoxville, both, and we're focusing on the big picture. We are in just a moment. We're going to get into the effects, from what we've been seeing here in Knoxville with coronavirus. But Doug, I mentioned there before the break the amount of growth, the statistical metropolitan area. And it's interesting. I was just looking at a couple of different articles that had been done on the most recession-proof areas in the country, and Knoxville kept popping up. And of the ones in the top 4 or 5, we were the largest city. And in terms of our statistical metropolitan area, we're now over 900,000 people, I believe. And so there's been some discussion that, getting to 1 million is a big threshold because now it starts showing up when people search for different places to go, business and residences, because we're now over 1 million people. Some people are actually concerned about that, though, because we've got a great balance between a little bit of a feel of, we got the city feel, but then we've got a lot of small city feel. We've got all the college stuff at the University of Tennessee. There's just a great balance here. Is there a concern with hitting that 1 million people threshold? How does the Chamber of Commerce look at that?
Yeah, so our mission statement's pretty simple. It's 4 words: driving regional economic prosperity. And I think an important part of that is growing in the right way. We've had good, steady growth here for a long time. I think we're around 1% growth a year per year if you look at the numbers over time, that's a good kind of controlled growth rate. It's not a big spike up where you're playing catch up to utilities and infrastructure and roads. We're in pretty decent shape. So I think having good, solid growth and the right type of growth is important. I think about in the city, there's a lot of emphasis now in taking some of the older stock properties and pumping new life into those, and the different corridors that are coming out of downtown, and you're seeing redevelopment happening really in all 4 directions. Coming out of the heart of the city. And so that's exciting to see. And really, Jim, a lot of companies that contact us now, while greenfield sites are still really important, there's some that, hey, we want to be as close to the core as possible. We want to be close to the campus. We'll take an old building and scrub it up and revitalize it and bring it back to life. So we're seeing more of that in the site selection process than I've seen in a long time.
I've seen a lot about that 1 million people threshold, that when you hit that, a lot of times you get into very dynamic growth. So that's why I'm kind of bringing it up. Is it a concern? What are your thoughts on that? What do you see? And is that a goal, or is it just you're focusing on healthy economic growth?
Yeah, it's not a specific goal of the chambers. We haven't circled that number. I think what I've heard, just kind of anecdotally, when you achieve 1 million, that starts to open doors for different types of brands, that might locate. 10 years ago, retail looked a lot different than it does today. So, I've heard, when's Knoxville going to get an IKEA? And I've heard people say, well, when you get 1 million people, then IKEA will arrive. I don't know if we had 1 million people today, if that would be the case, as much as retail has changed. Just, and even in the past 6 months, retail has changed a lot. So it's not a specific goal for the chamber.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the impact of COVID-19. First, a lot of businesses have really been impacted, especially restaurants. What's the concern of the percentage of restaurants that might permanently close with what we're seeing, and what other businesses have really been hit hard? Yeah.
So, if you step back for a second and look at, where we were, a year ago, unemployment rates, this time last year in the region, the Knoxville region, we were around 3.2, 3.3%. Today we're around 9%, I think, as a region. So just to give you, just a snapshot of the magnitude of how many folks are out of work is unbelievable. Restaurants certainly heavily impact all the service sector. The hotels are hurting bad right now. Retail is struggling. When the pandemic first hit in March, mid-March, the chamber kind of shifted into a mode very quickly of how can we get information out. And if you go to KnoxvilleChamber.com, our website, there is a whole section on COVID resources, how to tap into the programs that are out there and available, as well as a huge list of companies that are hiring. And we've kept that pretty current. So as your listeners, if folks are looking for a job, that's a quick, easy place to look for employment. We saw manufacturers kind of went through this phase of, holy cow, what are we going to do? How are we going to keep the assembly lines rolling? So there was a couple of weeks of, I just call it chaos, really, late March, early April, and then everyone started to figure it out. All of our manufacturers in Knox County that we've met with and had conversations with, they are all going full bore. Orders are up from the manufacturing side almost across the board, is what I'm hearing from our business retention expansion folks.
Wow. Well, let me just, I want to go back to what you said a minute ago about the restaurants and retail and hotels, especially with restaurants. Mm-hmm. I know that, it's kind of crazy. I mean, we've probably eaten out, Doug, 3 or 4 times in the last 4 months. And we used to eat out, a good bit. And we certainly have our favorite places. Everybody does. Sure. But one thing we have done is we've tried here and there to do carry out. And a lot of restaurants are getting through this. They're just trying to break even right now and try to get through this time. And I just want to mention there are ways we can support our local businesses and still be very, very safe if we're not comfortable completely getting in, going to a restaurant or going to a retail store. There are still some things we can do. And I just want to mention that and your perspective of what businesses have been doing to try to keep, at least in a break-even type of a position to try to get through this so that when things return to at least somewhat new normal, even though it may be a little bit of a new normal, they'll be poised to do well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm totally with you. And the restaurants that pivoted quickly and kind of got into the groove of carry out and, even things of, carry out beer and mixed drinks in the parking lots. It was just interesting to see how quickly some restaurants were able to do that. But yeah, I would encourage as well to, if you're not comfortable going in the restaurant,
we can patronize those people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we can patronize local business the right way. A lot of businesses have transitioned employees to virtual work from home. I know at Brogan Financial, we had a 5-week period. We were fully operating, but we were fully virtual. And now we're doing kind of mostly in the office, but most of our clients we're serving virtually. Some will come in, but most are virtual. But, that's going to affect, we're having a huge paradigm shift in even the way businesses work and how they serve their customers. Where do you think we're headed with how businesses, use their employees? Do you think people will go to more of a permanently work for home? And, the commercial real estate market is very soft right now. Is there a concern about the commercial real estate market coming out of this once we're through this?
Yeah, and I've had lots of conversations with lots of the commercial and office real estate brokers in town that we partner with all the time. And it's a big concern. And, what do we look like, a year from now? Is our office spaces, our companies going to shift to total virtual, and there's a lot of studies of productivity, and are you more productive at the house than in an office environment? And so I think those questions are yet to be answered. I can speak from my lens, from the business attraction side. We've had a few projects that we were actively recruiting, and that when pandemic hit, some just hit the brakes and said, you know what, we're going to stop this site search and see what happens in 6 months. Others have continued to roll forward, and some of those are office type environments where what I'm hearing from the company is even in their other existing locations, we're 90% remote, but as soon as we can get people back into a building together in a safe manner, we want to do that, because that collaboration, in-person collaboration, is something that's impossible to duplicate via a Zoom or a Microsoft Teams kind of discussion.
I think that's a great word, because just with what we experience, we've got 15 employees. And so we're not a big business, but, we're not 3 or 4 either. And so what's kind of interesting about that is, there's just more connectivity among employees when you're in the office. You've kind of touched on that just there. And I think everybody in our office was not anxious, but excited to kind of reestablish the connectivity. Everybody was very efficient working at home, but they miss that connectivity. And I think that's, and everybody's different. Some workers like to, would rather hole up and just kind of do their work. But a lot of us need the connectivity. That's kind of interesting. But, businesses are learning to work differently, and consumers are learning to consume differently, if you will. So it's just very interesting dynamic. And, I hope there's not too big of a hit on commercial real estate. So that'll be very interesting. Anything you'd like to add to that?
On the office market, specifically in Knoxville, there hasn't been a whole lot of new office product space constructed in Knoxville in the past several years. Just a handful of new properties, and so I think that will help if there is a transition. You look at some other markets, Middle Tennessee, Nashville, Williamson County, there's millions of square feet of speculative office space coming out of the ground. And that's a whole different dynamic than what we're facing or will have to face in Knoxville if there is any kind of shift away from offices. But
that's a great point. Well, hey, listen, let's get to our next break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Innovation Valley. We're going to talk about their new strategic plan called Path to Prosperity with the Knoxville Chamber of Commerce. We're also going to have our Dollars and Cents segment. The market's almost completely back to where it was in February. And, many people are concerned about another correction or even another bear market with everything, with all the instability. What if you retire into the teeth of a bear market, the challenges that presents, and how can you plan accordingly and be protected somewhat from that potential reality? So stay with us as you listen to More Living with Jim Brogan here on News Talk 98.7 WOKI.
Through his weekly radio show, television news appearances, and adult education classes taught at the University of Tennessee and Pellissippi State Community College, Jim taps into his extensive knowledge and experience to address issues important to living your best retirement. Join Jim every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. here on News Talk 98.7 WOKI, and visit him online at broganfinancial.com. And now, here's the host of More Living, Jim Brogan.
This is More Living with Jim Brogan here on News Talk 98.7 WOKI, where it's all about living the best years of your life your way. We're visiting this morning with Doug Lawyer. He's with the Knoxville Chamber of Commerce. We're talking about economic development. And before we get back to Doug, we're going to get into a lot of more great stuff. But before we get back to Doug, it is time for Dollars and Cents.
Want to be sure you are getting the most out of your retirement? For all the years of your retirement? That's the primary goal of More Living with Jim Brogan and our Dollars and Cents segment, where we provide you with an important financial tip that will help positively impact the quality of your life in retirement. And now, here's Jim with this week's Dollars and Cents tip.
Did you know that 10 years after the 2008 financial crisis, 10 years after, so in 2018, only 2% of middle-income baby boomers believed that the economy had fully recovered, and 65% did not believe they had seen any personal benefit from the recovery. As we get closer to retirement and we retire, big downturns have a much more dramatic impact on our potential success or failure in retirement. You know, market drops right around the time that you retire can really have significant long-term effects on your wealth. And you heard Halloran there in the break that, 80% of your success or failure in retirement is determined in the first 10 years. And over 50% is determined in the first 5 years. To see if you retire into a bear market, then there's a reduction in your overall portfolio, but there's also the impact of needing to withdraw savings from that portfolio while it's down. And withdrawing funds while your portfolio loses value can have a horribly negative effect on your long-term results and could be catastrophic potentially. Now, that doesn't mean you can't retire during a bear market. We have no control of our market timing. Did we retire at the right time? Now, one problem is trying to rely on market timing. You not only, if you're trying to time the market, you not only have to know when to get out, you have to know when to get back in. Remember, in March, we had that 3,000-point drop in one day, but then a few days later, we had like a 2,100-point gain in one day. And if you were out, nobody on March 21st thought the market was going to go back up 2,100 points in one day and that we'd be almost back to where we were. So things can be very, very unpredictable, both going down and a major rebound. And so market timing typically just does not work. So how do you put a plan together to be successful? I think the two main things is to structure income in the short term that doesn't depend on your stock market investments. So you've got stability of income. So the money you have invested in the market, you're not going to touch it for at least 5 or 6 years. So you're not as worried about what happens this fall or even next year. Now, there still needs to be a little bit of concern that if it's too negative, it could impact where you are in 5 years. But you kind of start to take the short-term realities of the market more out of the equation by having an income plan that leans on investments that are stable or protected. And then the second part is measuring and understanding risk. Understanding things like the cruel math of losses. If you lose 40%, which is about what an average bear market does, you have to make 67% just to get back to where you were. That's some cruel math. So understanding how to stabilize an investment portfolio where the ups and downs aren't as severe gives you the greater likelihood that in 5 or 6 or 7 years, those monies can be fruitful for you. So how you put together your financial plan can largely mitigate the potential reality of retiring into the teeth of a bear market. It's probably one of the number one risks retirees face today, and it must be addressed in your financial plan. Now, I'd urge you to check us out at broganfinancial.com. Now, we've got, in my 2-part classes, these are adult education classes. If you're retired or getting ready to retire, really within 5 years of retirement, these classes are for you. They're $59, 2 2-hour sessions. And our classes this fall, both at Pellissippi State and the University of Tennessee, are being offered both live in person and online virtually. So whatever learning environment you want. Now, if you're live in person, we're using all the distancing and CDC requirements that are required. We're wearing masks. We're doing all of those things, the way we're disinfecting surfaces. But then, because some people really like that in-person learning. But for those that just are nervous about that, you can attend online. And we've got everything set up, so you'll have video of me. You'll have great video of the PowerPoint slides and the charts and graphs that I use to teach and the drawings that I do. I'll be at Pellissippi State, Hardin Valley this Thursday, August the 13th and the 20th. Remember, it's two-hour sessions, so the next two Thursdays. You can go to PellissippiRetirementPlanning.com to download a syllabus and get more information and to register. Now, then I'll be at the University of Tennessee downtown on September 15th and 22nd. Those are successive Tuesday evenings, if Tuesdays are better for you. And that is called Financial Survival for Retirement is the name of that class. You can go to financialsurvivalforretirement.com. Again, that's September 15th and 22nd. All of this is both live in person and live online, whatever learning environment you're most comfortable with. You can find my full schedule of everything that we do at my website, broganfinancial.com. Click on classes. You can also subscribe to our weekly e-blast where we weekly send out information. I've been doing webinars that are complimentary 30-minute webinars on things like tax planning and how to plan in the midst of coronavirus. We've been doing a lot of YouTube stuff that's just quick 3 to 5 minute snippets. How do you pick your Social Security strategy? So we're just trying to put out as much information as we can to help you make informed and prudent decisions that can impact the quality of your life. So check us out at broganfinancial.com. Today we're visiting with Doug Lawyer. He's the Executive Vice President of the Knoxville Chamber of Commerce for Economic Development. Tennessee, Knoxville is such a great place to live, and we've been talking about all the great things that are going on in Knoxville. Doug, talk to us a little bit about Innovation Valley.
Yeah, so Innovation Valley was a economic development initiative that we had for the past 10, 12 years, and we actually sunsetted that program, and we've shifted all of our energies into a new program that we call the Path to Prosperity, which is a 5-year strategic plan for the Knoxville Chamber. And really what that means is, I mentioned our mission statement, driving regional economic prosperity. The vision that we have is to create an economic ecosystem for any type of company that's in the Knoxville area. And so what that ecosystem really, it starts first and foremost with working with our existing businesses. You mentioned, some of the large major corporations that call Knoxville home, Regal, Pilot Flying J, Clayton, others. Those all started as a startup here. And, what this Path to Prosperity kind of focuses on is who is that next company that is already here, and maybe they've got 10 or 20 employees. How do we help them get to 50 employees, to 100, to 500, to 1,000 employees? And so the Path to Prosperity is really a focused effort by the Knoxville Chamber to make sure wherever you are in your business cycle, we have resources and programs available to assist you. And even the way we're thinking as a chamber, we used to go knock on doors and encourage companies to join the chamber and get a membership, like you go to the gym. And just we're changing our terminology and the way we think. We're now seeking investors. So you invest in the chamber in this Path to Prosperity, and we hope that you receive the return on your investment, just like you would if you're investing in the stock market. So a lot of changes at the chamber and the way we're doing that, and the Path to Prosperity is a focused plan that the entire team at the chamber is thinking about on a daily basis and reporting it out to our board on a monthly basis.
Now, there's a lot that's going on with construction, and I know But you know what? Before I get to that, Doug, how can people find out more about Path to Prosperity?
Yeah, so you can go to knoxvillechamber.com, and there's information on the strategic plan. Should be there on the homepage. And if you're interested in learning more, we can set up for one of our investment folks to reach out and explain it to you. Kind of like you just said, we can do it virtually over Zoom or in person if people are comfortable, or the chamber offices are open on Market Square. We are doing the masks and hand sanitizers and socially distancing. So we will welcome those conversations with anybody.
Okay, that's great. So they can go to knoxvillechamber.com to find out more about Path to Prosperity. Okay, I tell you what, we're going to get to our last break. When we come back, we're going to talk to, I see a lot of dirt being moved out by the airport. Of course, there's a South Knoxville development. There's downtown. Where are we going with some of these projects? So stay tuned as I visit with Doug Lawyer. He's Executive Vice President for Economic Development with the Knoxville Chamber of Commerce. As you listen to More Living with Jim Brogan here on News Talk 98.7 WOKI.
Thank you for listening to More Living with Jim Brogan. If you miss any of today's show or want to listen to it again, visit broganfinancial.com, where you can access the podcast and other educational materials to help you in your journey through retirement. And now, here's Senior Market Advisor Magazine's 2011 National Advisor of the Year and host of More Living, Jim Brogan.
Thanks for tuning in this morning here on News Talk 98.7 WOKI. This is More Living. You can check us out online at broganfinancial.com. Find out more about my upcoming classes. Just click on the Classes tab. 2-part classes at University of Tennessee and Mississippi State, both in person and live online virtually. We can serve you however you like so that you can be equipped to make informed and prudent decisions that can impact the quality of your retirement. We're visiting today with Doug Lawyer. He's the Executive Vice President of Economic Development at Knoxville Chamber of Commerce. So many great things going on. Doug, I see a lot of dirt moving out by the airport for a business park. Talk about some of the new business parks or places for businesses to locate.
Yeah. So, certainly the development out there by the airport is a big one that's going on out there, and just the amazing amount of dirt work that's going up and down Alcoa Highway as TDOT's working on the realignment of the highway there. But over here in Knox County,
when's that projected, Doug? What's the projection on that project along Alcoa Highway going out there? Like, how long is it going to be? They've made a lot of progress in the last little bit, but is that 3 or 4 more years or 2 years? Do you know?
I think you're in the 3 to 4 more year kind of phase, but I hate to even wager a guess. I do know that the TDOT's got a great website that you can go and kind of get updates and estimated timelines, I believe, on all their projects. So I would encourage folks to go list or click on there to get that information as opposed to relying on me for that estimate.
Is there hope that development of the highway out there will lead to kind of a revitalization even on that airport there, going through Lakemore Hills out before you get to Severe Heights Baptist Church, that maybe it'll revitalize that area a little bit?
Well, I think that certainly is a goal, as well as just increased safety. I mean, that's it's been a dangerous stretch of road for quite a while. So getting that straightened up will help out. But back over here in Knox County, a couple of key business park developments are nearing completion. The first one is out at exit 402 Midway Road. So the Midway Road Business Park has been under development for a year and a half now, and it's getting to the final phases of being ready. I think they're close to putting down the pavement on the roads. All of the utilities, underground utilities, are in place. So that's opening up, 185, 200 acres, I believe, in phase 1 of that park development. We've been actively marketing that property for various projects. So right off the interchange, the easy access, great visibility, and then the views up there are amazing. And then another one on the other side of Knox County, out right behind Carnes High School, there is a new business park being developed called Carnes Valley Business Park. And that park is going to bring about 80 acres of land online, flat as a table, which is unique in East Tennessee and very attractive. And again, roads and infrastructure in place.
Well, what resources, Doug, does the Chamber offer for businesses, for those business owners and executives that are listening this morning?
Yeah, so I think the key thing is a buying in and helping to fuel all of these programs that we're talking about. And so there's 6 kind of key priorities that we're focusing on right now. One of those is a regional workforce development strategy, working with our school systems and the community colleges and the University of Tennessee. We're also working hard to attract and retain talent to this region. If it's not here and is it somewhere else, how do we encourage those folks to come here and make them aware of the employment resources? We're working hard also on infrastructure. The most specific thing right now is in partnership with Knox County Schools and the eKnox initiative, making sure that, when school starts on August 24th for Knox County, that everybody has access to the internet. And so that's a program that our regional enhancement team is focused on. We're also trying to put together a strategy to increase access to capital for entrepreneurs and startups. If you've got a great business idea, but you don't have the funding, what are those resources? And then we are working from a marketing standpoint, to create some new marketing and branding for the Knoxville community. That's, the city and the county and the chamber coming together to help tell the story, both internally and externally, what's going on here. So, all of those things.
And I think it's really Go ahead, Doug. I'm sorry.
That's all right. And the last thing I was going to say is, just a laser sharp focus on our existing businesses and helping those existing companies grow and access the programs and resources that we can bring to the table.
Well, and I want to say, as a business owner, Brogan Financial, we're a member of the Chamber. And I think it's important for businesses not just to think, okay, how can the Chamber help me, but also how can we help the Chamber? Because just supporting with membership is important, because a greater community, a greater development, a greater economic plan, it does nothing but benefit all of us. It leads to more opportunity for all East Tennesseans, both consumers, businesses, all the way around. So I do think it's very important to support organizations like this. So, and just by being a member, it helps support them. So could you, for people that want to find more about it, the Chamber, can you again, in KnoxvilleChamber.com, I think you've got the path to prosperity people can invest in. What's the best way to find out more about the Chamber?
Yeah, and first of all, thank you and Brogan Financial for your investment in the Chamber. That means the world to us, and appreciate the opportunity to be on the show. But yeah, KnoxvilleChamber.com, you can go there. And in the top right corner of the homepage is a bright orange button that says Invest, and that's kind of where that process starts. And that'll go to our investment development team, and they will set up a time to reach out to you individually and have that conversation and go into details on the path to prosperity and how your financial investment in our efforts hopefully can help the entire region grow. That's really what it's all about. And so,
Doug Lawyer, the Executive Vice President for Knoxville Chamber of Commerce, thank you so much for being with us. You can check it out again, KnoxvilleChamber.com. Thank you for tuning in this week. Thank you, Chris, running the board. Thank you, Jill, producing the show. As we've discussed, greater economic development, because a greater community provides for more living, so you can live the best years of your life your way. Have a very blessed week. You've been listening to More Living with Jim Brogan, only on News Talk 98.7 WOKI.
The views expressed by Jim Brogan and his guests are not that of Cumulus Media. Any discussion of financial, legal, and tax planning strategies is not intended to be individualized advice and is general in nature. Always consult with your advisor for advice specific to your needs. This program's content does not represent a recommendation of any particular security, strategy, or investment by Jim Brogan or Brogan Financial Incorporated.